This video is going to look at ways to make your paper more readable while still providing all the content. Come on in. We've already touched on this in earlier videos, but this is not your junior high 5-paragraph essay. You are not required to have 3 main topics. You need as many as it takes to support your thesis. Within each of those main topics, you will need several supporting arguments or subtopics. Each of those should be its own paragraph. Again, there is no set number of points you need to make. Let the research guide your presentation. Paragraphs should be short. 1 sentence to introduce a topic and 2 or 3 sentences to provide the evidence and example. That is all. Consider this analogy as you assemble your paper. When you speak, you pause between thoughts to let the listener know you're transitioning. That gives the listener an opportunity to absorb the information presented and prepare for different information. It works the same way with paragraphs. When you break each bit into its own paragraph, the reader understands your points in bites and knows when it is time to move on. One issue new students have is the overuse and incorrect use of both quotes and quotation marks. Quotes should be used to prove the points in your paper. They come from primary sources to give your paper depth and make the reader understand your points in a way that is memorable. Your quotes will need citations that go back to the original author, speech, letter, whatever the source is. Quotesalot.com is not a real source. One more note about quotes. Quotation marks do not go around ordinary words. They go around actual quotes. Words are just words, and there is no reason to put quote marks around them, even for emphasis. Here is another point about quotes. Many people are worthy of quoting in a lot of different subject areas. Be sure you are quoting something relevant to your topic. If your paper is on the 7 voyages of Zheng He, a quote from Zheng He about the African giraffe would be relevant. A quote from Zheng He about being raised Islamic in China would not. It's off topic. One last thing about quotes. They need to come from primary sources only. Primary sources create impact because the quote was said by someone who was at the events and gives insight not available anywhere else. Secondary sources are for gathering factual data for your points. Many students try to present their paper using a lot of quotes from secondary sources instead of actually writing it themselves. You should be reading enough secondary sources on your subject to be able to tell a complete story in your own words. Quoting from secondary sources, even paraphrasing, is lazy and cheating. The rubric for your paper probably has a section for spelling and grammar. You can do this with the Word Checker or Grammarly. It has a free version. Getting someone else to read your paper to make sure it makes sense is really important. You know what you meant to say. Someone else can tell you if you actually said it. Finally, reading out loud helps. If you stumble over anything, it means it is not smoothly written. Fix it. Tense is past, present, or future. Make sure you're keeping things accurate. Hannibal is not attacking Rome. He attacked. It is unlikely events are happening as you write, so present tense should be used carefully. Agreement is making sure your subject and verb match. They are, not they is. Riots were, not riots was. Be sure you're modifying the right thing. When you put a clause between the subject and verb, it may seem like you need to assign number to the noun in the clause, but it has to agree with the main subject. We have already looked at a lot of writing techniques as part of this and other videos. Let's revisit some of that information again. Put everything about one subtopic together and do not repeat any fact in the same paper. Keep paragraphs short. No one wants to read a giant block of text. Spell and grammar check your work in several different ways. Make sure your quotes are from primary sources and are relevant to your work. It sounds like a lot, but like most things, it gets easier the more often you do it. As always, please contact the library if you have any questions. We're here for you. There is a lot of work that goes into getting a great paper this far. Please let a librarian know if you need any help.